Happy Monday. Welcome back to Slice of Life. That is Billy Harner, the Director of Communications, and my name is Keith Brad, the broadcaster for the Brooklyn Cyclones. No baseball yet, but we bring you Slice of Life to bring you good news, fun laughs, whatever we can find on the internet that we loved. We're hoping to bring that to you as well. We started off with our favorite social slice. I will start first because our favorite state makes an appearance, Billy. For some reason, Ohio just will not leave us alone. This story comes from Oakwood, which is a city right outside of Dayton, Ohio. Mayor William D. Duncan, which sounds like the name of a mayor in like some cartoon, signed a proclamation a few weeks ago calling for an Oakwood neighborly salute, or as it becomes known locally, the HowdyHour. So every day at 6 o'clock, all the neighbors come outside, wave at their friends, wave at their neighbors, make sure everyone's, smiling and having fun. And what's really odd, I was doing a little more research on this, so I went back and Googled HowdyHour Oakwood, and I clicked on the first link, and it was a story to Raleigh, North Carolina. They have a neighborhood known as Oakwood as well, and they're doing the Howdy Neighbor Night. So two random Oakwoods in the United States of America, both using Howdy something. Pretty cool, but I mean, we clap in the city at 7 o'clock for the healthcare workers. And when you don't live by a hospital, I'm sure that you got to do something. So I like this idea.
Yeah, I've seen a couple different things similar to this over the weekend. There was a block in Brooklyn that has a 7 o'clock dance party where there's a guy who's a DJ on the block, and he plays a song, and everybody comes out. And some nights it's a slow dance for the older folks on the block, and some nights it's like something from TikTok for the kids. So people are getting creative, and it's fun. It's a good way to meet your neighbors. I mean, there's people on this block. I've lived here for 9 years that are, whether it's around the corner or wherever, that you're just seeing out and about, going for walks around or taking a bike ride or something like that. So the bright side of this is getting to meet a lot of people and saying hello and shaking hands. Not shaking hands. You shouldn't do that, right? But just get to say hello and wave from a distance. So that's been a good part of this. For my social slice, I thought that you would appreciate this as a broadcaster without a game. Yourself there, Keith. So Nick Heath is a sports broadcaster in London, England. He mainly calls rugby matches, but life with no sports during quarantine has caused Nick to take a different path. Take a look.
Join me live, Morden Hall Park, and we have Glenda and Graham Goosen, and of course they know all about this event, having been champions in '83, now turned judges, of course, back together after those unpleasant headlines. The showpiece event of the day, the double water skate, and here they come now. Jemima first in, closely followed by Al-Orange, her Dutch partner. That is stunning. Oh yes, nice execution from them both. Let's see it again. Oh, precision skate in there. She's the standard setter in this event, the follow in behind. It's a quacking finish. Sixes all round from the Goosens. Someone's stolen my bike.
So Nick has several of these on his Twitter feed and his YouTube page, ranging from a fictitious 150-meter race between snails, which is very enjoyable. There's also what he calls no-rhythm gymnastics, which is people exercising on a lawn. And then there's also pigeon dressage. So just for gigs, you got a little bit of everything. So I chose this video because of the subtleties that made me laugh. So he talks about these ducks, and one of them is l'orange, so duck l'orange, because I'm just a classy guy. I know my French cuisine. And then the other one is Jemima, Jemima Duck is a children's book written by Beatrice Potter, which is such an obscure reference that I just couldn't get enough of it. So Nick himself has a YouTube page, Rugby Media, where all these different videos are posted. He's also got a clothing line for all of these things. He's come up with t-shirt designs for the snail races and for everything. He's got some canine races as well. They all have their own clothing line and graphics and images. It's amazing. This guy's popularity on Twitter has grown like 30% or 30 times, I guess, over the last month when he started posting these videos. So good for Nick. Good way to keep yourself occupied. And I enjoyed them thoroughly.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that people, with a British accent, first of all, they sound way more sophisticated. And for some reason, during broadcasts, they just make things sound so much better. I don't know what it is. I'm not a big soccer fan, but when you watch the World Cup and someone with a British accent is commentating, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, people say I listen to that guy read the phone book. I literally listen to this guy call a snail race. So I'm about on that same level with you.
Time for Chicken Parm Heroes. Billy, we'll go right back to you, and we'll go out to Alaska, I think, for the first time during Slice of Life.
Yeah, I think we briefly mentioned Alaska when we were talking about our joke hotlines. But this is a little bit of a different story. So for my Chicken Parm Hero, we're going all the way to a place called Gustavus, Alaska. This is both literally and metaphorically as far away from New York City as you can possibly get. It's a tiny town in southeastern Alaska that has a grand total of 446 residents. And it's a place where there's only 54 students in their school, which is from K through 12. So definitely hard to cheat on an exam in that class, I would guess. So the town didn't get phone service until the 1990s, and there are no roads that connect it to the outside world. So everything is done by a plane or boat. So now imagine him living in a place like that during a global pandemic. Enter Joshua Parker, who runs Ice Straight Wholesale, which is the village's grocery store. It's the town's only grocery store.
Sure.
So as one would imagine, the logistics of getting groceries into a place in remote Alaska are quite involved and a little more complicated than just ordering from Peapod. So with the supply chain not functioning as normal, Joshua took matters into his own hands and loaded a 96-foot barge with shipping containers and headed to Juneau, Alaska, to Costco in Juneau, Alaska, which is the smallest in size and scope of all 785 Costco warehouses globally. And oh, by the way, it's a 7-hour trip in one direction. So this guy jumps on a boat, takes it 7 hours, goes to Costco in Juneau, where they load up his barge with $20,000 worth of merchandise that he had taken orders from people in his town, and brings everything onto the boat, and then takes another 7-hour trip back to make sure that the people in his town are fed and taken care of and have all the supplies they need. My favorite part of this whole thing, outside of the fact that this guy took a 14-hour boat ride to go pick up comedically oversized jars of mayonnaise, in my mind, and bagel bites and whatever else I get from Costco. This guy could only get one thing of toilet paper and one thing of paper towels, even though he was buying $20,000 worth of merchandise, because that's Costco's rules to avoid hoarding. So he found different people that would fly things in from different areas, like those necessities, to people's homes to find a way around it. But absolutely unbelievable. And just the story of, a small town you don't even think about. I mean, we're here in New York, and we're going nuts being stuck inside, and you can call DoorDash and have them there in 20 minutes. These guys are disconnected from the entire world and still finding a way to make it work. So an amazing story, and just the kind of stuff that really brings us all together, I think.
That is like one of the best punchlines I've ever heard. That this guy spends $20,000. Like, whoa. One toilet paper. That's it. It's like, wait a minute. You got an entire town of people that I need.
Yeah, can't spare a square.
My Chicken Parm Hero. This is going to make our poor Louie seem like just another Joe Schmo here after your Alaska story. But my Chicken Parm Hero, Louis Goffinet, also known as Mr. Goffinet, at Lebanon Middle School in Connecticut, which, by the way, I did a little digging, 10 miles from the Connecticut Tigers, who are in the New York Penn League. Louis started shopping for some elderly people in his neighborhood. Some of them are immunocompromised, didn't want to go to the grocery store. So he was doing that. And then a family found out and said, hey, both of our parents, we're furloughed. We can't really afford Instacart fees. Would you mind helping us out, picking up some groceries? So he started doing that, and then he surprised them and did it for no charge. Yada, yada, yada. He's raised $19,000 to go grocery shopping for people who can't quite afford it right now. So it's turned into helping out the elderly, into now helping out families who just can't, scrape a couple pennies together to go to the grocery store. And the kicker is that like I said, he's Mr. Goffinette. So from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., he teaches full time still, obviously digitally. And then he goes to the grocery stores all afternoon, all night. So pretty special. I mean, one person making an amazing difference. And I think there was about $19,000, about 300 people donated. So it's picking up pretty nicely up there.
Yeah, and recently everybody in the healthcare industry has been getting lots of praise for their efforts, and rightfully so. But we're also seeing the grocery store workers and the truck drivers and the delivery people, how important they are to just our daily life as well. So seeing somebody that's a teacher that is obviously very important to our daily lives to begin with, doing something like this to go out of his way and make sure everybody's still able to survive, pulling double duty, doing good work is great to see for sure.
Time for sports. We, of course, will talk about The Last Dance, but we have a baseball update.
Yeah, just a couple minutes ago, I think ESPN just announced that they will be broadcasting live baseball starting tonight, or I guess technically tomorrow morning, for opening day of the KBO in Korea. The first game will be televised Tuesday morning at 1 a.m. It'll be opening day over there. And Carl Ravitch and Eduardo Perez will be calling the games remotely from their homes, I would imagine, with a feed from the actual game. And then every day for the next 5 days, so they'll be doing 6 games a week. And Carl Ravitch will be doing him. Luke Shambi will be doing him, Jessica Mendoza, Kyle Peterson, Eduardo Perez. So you'll get your normal ESPN baseball broadcasters calling some games from halfway around the world. So you'll get to see some live baseball for the first time in a long time, which will be nice.
And as a broadcaster, I'm very interested to see. I've heard of this before. I know Ed Cohen, who does the Knicks on radio, he used to do this for the KBO, where he would go into a studio and you'd have all the cameras and you can see. So I wonder what they're going to do, because it's hard as heck. You need good sight lines to call baseball. I mean, it's hard to call it from the feed. Bat hits the ball, and now they're going to turn the camera around and you have to follow it. It's tough. So we'll see how they pull that off.
Yeah, and I think the most interesting part is you're going to be calling games with players who you have absolutely no idea who they are. You're not calling Jacob deGrom pitching to Mike Trout. These are guys that you found out probably a couple days ago that you're calling this game. So go get them. No sit down with the manager to get some insight, none of that stuff. So that'll be interesting for sure.
Last Dance time. Talk about episodes 5 and 6 from last night. Couple of things. I was obviously perplexed by how the media changed their tune, I guess. Like MJ the whole time would play golf with people he was playing against the day before he played them in a playoff series. And then there's a situation where he goes down to Atlantic City and gambles and then comes back by, I think, midnight, like normal time. He wasn't, gone for a weekend like Dennis Rodman in Vegas. But I feel like the reporters, just anytime they could try to say, we caught you now, like he's the greatest of all time. Like, leave him alone. That was what I was getting from that last night. I just, if he's going to go out and play arcade games or whatever, like leave him alone. If he's going to go gamble and blow off some steam, leave him alone. The guy loves doing something. So I don't know. That's how I felt last night.
Yeah, my big takeaway from the thing is just like how difficult it was to be Michael Jordan. We know dealing with players and media requests on a much, 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 much smaller scale, how outrageous it becomes for some of them. Like when we'll have a first-round draft pick playing for the Cyclones, or if we have Noah Syndergaard make a rehab assignment, that's just a one-day thing where they're inundated with media requests. But you're Michael Jordan. You're the most famous person in the world. You can't go anywhere or do anything. So when you're in New York and you've lost game 1 to the Knicks, your hated rival, and all you're supposed to do is sit in your room and watch TV where they're going to talk about how the Knicks won, I'm going someplace. And I'm not going to go down to a steakhouse in Manhattan, or I'm not going to go to a bar. That's not my kind of scene. Exactly. So this is what he did. He got in a limo, went with his family, went to play some blackjack. I would wager that there were guys on his team that were doing way worse things than he was at 12:30 on a night before a game. I mean, that's just, the guy was on a team with Dennis Rodman. You don't think Dennis Rodman was out doing something at whatever time? So, I mean, at that time, he has, Horace Grant and all these other dudes on his team. So I'm sure somebody was out doing something they weren't supposed to be doing. So that was one thing for me. But, I've had conversations with players, when I was working for the Mets, talking with, guys like David Wright, who every day, if you're 0 for 4, if you didn't play, if you were just at the stadium, you had to be available to the media to make a comment or speak. And, that's David Wright, who was, the captain of the Mets and, the face of the franchise. But again, he's not Michael Jordan. So I can't even imagine what that life is like, where you're quarantined basically, before it was fashionable, I guess.
Really?
So that was a part that I took away as crazy. And then the other thing for me was I'm a big sneakerhead. I'm a sneaker guy. And the fact that what could have been, and like the butterfly effect of Michael Jordan wanted to sign with Adidas. Michael Jordan didn't want to go to Nike. His mom made him go to Nike. They offered him this outrageous contract. And now here we are, 26 years later or whatever, and the entire sports world has changed. I mean, you're talking about the most famous people at the time were tennis players and golfers. And then Michael Jordan came along. And, I read something last night that Michael Jordan last year, the guy hasn't played in decades. He made more money from Nike last year than he did during his entire playing career from the Chicago Bulls. That is just absolutely mind-blowing. The guy made $130 million last year from Nike, just being him. He's not playing. He's just Michael Jordan retired at this point. So that stuff is crazy. And if you're Adidas, the fact that this guy wanted nothing but to be the face of your company and wear your sneakers because he thought they were cool, and you don't even make this dude an offer. Like, there's got to be somebody that is in a padded room for the last 25 years because this is what happened. Absolutely crazy.
I guess Mama knows. Mama Jordan, who probably should get a piece of every single thing because she said, "See, Michael, I told you so."
Yeah, there's got to be some sneaker that comes out named after her after this whole thing is over. I mean, they're putting out sneakers now, re-releasing stuff. Like every Saturday, they're re-releasing Jordans. And they sell out in like 2 minutes, which is just absolutely crazy. The amount of money that is made, the popularity of it, and to think like it all came from, hey, we're all going to wear Chuck Taylors, but they're just going to be different colors because I'm on the Celtics and I'm Larry Bird and I'm on the Lakers and I'm Magic Johnson, to having the Air Jordan and just what that meant to just changing everything in sports. It's unbelievable to me. And it was cool to see the beginnings of it. And now there was the story last week from David Falk about Michael Jordan just turned down a $100 million deal to go make a 2-hour appearance. So that's where he's at in life, where he's just like, nah, I don't want you to use my image and likeness, and I don't want you to give me $100 million because I don't want to come hang out with you for 2 hours. Just crazy stuff.
And finally, gamblers everywhere were able to kind of pick up a little bit of a motto, if you will, that I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem. Huh. I'll spin that one for you, Michael.
For sure. I mean, and that's sort of like a common thread, like these big time athletes, they just get such a vibe. And when you're seeing all these interviews he's doing, he's like making stuff up to get himself juiced up. Like, people think Clyde Drexler is almost as good as me, so I'm going to go out and destroy them. Like, Tony Kukoc had no idea why these guys wanted to destroy him on the court. But they go out and they basically shut him out for an entire basketball game because him and Scottie Pippen decided that, this is our bad guy. So he's making stuff up to get the juices flowing. And you can't just turn that off. Like, when you're not playing, like, you can't just sit around and just vibe out. Like, you need to find something to get that fix, I guess. And he found it with his blackjack. And the other part that I thought was terrific is this dude plays golf all the time for money, and he is terrible. He's just like, he's out there losing money, $57,000 to some dude who ends up going to jail. And like, you play all the time, you figure you'd be a little bit better. And if you're not that good, don't throw 50 grand at a hole. Like, great. And also the rolling the coins, the rolling the quarters. Just he's after the game, he's sitting there rolling quarters with the security guys that are supposed to be watching him. I mean, oh God, so many good things from this show. I can't wait. And I'm like, it's halfway over and I'm so sad. Like, there's 4 episodes left and I just never want it to end.
Well, that's where Billy Harner's heart at is right now. He is absolutely in love with The Last Dance. We are too. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Slice of Life, and we'll see you tomorrow for episode 22.